All right, welcome. So this video is progression, the purpose of self-improvement. So this one, we're going to talk about why progress is the actual purpose of self-improvement. Progress itself is the end goal. And this is the thing that we need to understand, right? Progression, growth in and of itself is the reason we are pursuing whatever it is we are pursuing, right? The reason we have a purpose is not to get the thing at the end of the road, but to actually live and experience a process of growth towards something meaningful to us. And so that's why the purpose of self-improvement is not to achieve our goals easier, is not to get to the end faster. It is to continuously progress, continuously grow, continuously get better, because that in and of itself is the end goal, is the journey. So without further ado, why self-improvement is not about the end goal. So a lot of people think that self-improvement is all about the end goal. It's all about achieving the thing at the end and allowing ourselves to do so faster and easier. Yes, that is part of what I talk about with self-improvement, is how to optimize our lifestyle to achieve our goals as fast as possible. But that isn't to say that we get it done and get it over with. That is to say that by achieving our goals faster, we can grow further. However, the actual end goal is growth in and of itself, is how we can grow in the best way possible, how we can develop ourselves in the best way possible. So with self-improvement, it's not about the end goal. Self-improvement in and of itself, the goal of self-improvement is self-improvement. It's development. It's the growth that happens within our progression towards a specific goal. That is the purpose of self-improvement. That is why we do self-improvement. So the understanding that self-improvement is just a tool to get to the goal is false. In reality, what self-improvement is a means for us to optimize our lifestyles in such a way that we are living a constant progression, a Kaizen type of lifestyle, right? Kaizen means continual improvements, right? Continual growth and development. So we are living this lifestyle of growth. The goal is growth. The reason we set goals is to keep our minds focused on an endpoint that triggers us to live a lifestyle catered towards growth. If we're happy and content with where we're at now, there's no reason to grow. There's no reason to improve ourselves. So we still need to have the goal, but the goal isn't the purpose. The purpose is growth and development and becoming the best version of ourselves. And that goal is just reflective of a milestone that we can achieve in order to know that we're moving in the right direction. So how focus on progression leads to better results over time. By focusing on the results, by focusing on the goal, we actually derail our mind from the actual steps required to get there. If we are constantly thinking about the end goal, we become overwhelmed with the gap between where we're at now and where we want to be, right? We become fixated on the end point and therefore separate ourselves from it because we're so obsessed with getting that thing. We want it so bad that we can't actually align ourselves with it, and therefore we create a wider gap, right? When we just focus on the goals, we actually just drive ourselves crazy, to be honest, right? We drive ourselves crazy while creating a larger gap to achieving that goal. Whereas if we focus on progression itself, right? If we focus on just getting better, right? Just getting closer. Today, what can you focus on? Can I focus on improving my YouTube content? Can I focus on improving my skills with my training? Can I learn something new that will be a valuable step towards that? We are not focusing on the end goal, but we are focusing on the actual steps, the actual progress we can make now in order to get closer. By focusing on progression, by focusing all of our attention on progression, we're focusing on things we can do now. And what that does is it actually allows us to make progress, right? Because if we're focusing on the goal, we're not really progressing towards the goal. But if we focus on the actions, the steps required to achieve that goal, the little steps that we can take now to grow, to improve our skills, to learn more, to become better for tomorrow, this process is what will allow us to reach our goals. This process in and of itself is why people can achieve goals and absolutely crush the original goals they had. Continuing to progress even further is because their focus was not on the goal, the end goal. If you're focusing on 10K a month, you'll stop at 10K a month. But if your focus is progress, is getting better every single day, you won't be able to stop at 10K a month. You'll continue to grow. And if your desire is focused on growth itself, not getting the money, then you will see getting the money as a milestone, not a reason to stop. And that's kind of the whole idea, is by focusing on progression, we keep going further beyond just the goal, just the physical manifestation, just the physical results. And therefore, we actually can achieve much, much more because of the fact that we're focused on the progression itself. Because our focus is on progression itself, we're able to identify the things we can actually do right now, which leads us to doing those things. When we focus on the goal, the end point, we're focusing on something that's created out of years or months of continuous effort, continuously placing specific blocks. And so if we focus on the whole picture all at once, we become overwhelmed with the amount that we have to do. But when we focus on how we can progress, how we can get from where we're at to a little bit better, to a little bit better, a little bit better, closer to where we want to go, well, we actually focus on and identify things we can do in the moment. And by doing those things in the moment and focusing on just taking each of the actions, each of the micro actions consistently over a long period of time, we do make more progress in the end. And this is because every time we do take one small action towards that goal, we get a little bit better, we get a little bit more knowledge in what we're trying to achieve, and then the next action becomes available to us. And so by continuously just focusing on how can I progress towards that goal today, how can I get a little bit better today, eventually we build up so much momentum that is how we end up achieving, big goals almost seemingly overnight, right? Is because we've built up so much momentum of so much growth and progression that now we get things rolling, right? We get this momentum rolling, and then the results start to come in. And the point is, now that the results are coming in, a lot of people get distracted by the results, but those who are focused on progress don't care about the results, right? The money, for example, becomes fuel for the next thing that you're trying to build, the next goal that you have. And so by focusing on constant progression, we never get stuck on this idea of being obsessed with the materialism, with the goal, with the results, the physical enjoyment of it. We become focused on the lifestyle, the routine, the process, the journey, the growth. And therefore, we're not only more fulfilled, but because of that, we're actually able to do more of the things that create the result. And because that's where 100% of our focus is, the results are a natural byproduct. And so by increasing the amount of attention we give to the thing that creates the result, we increase the ability to achieve the result. But a lot of people want to just focus on the result. However, when you focus so much on the result that you avoid the actual process, you will never be able to achieve the goal that you're going after. Becoming 1% better every single day. The idea of Kaizen, or constant improvements, constant progression, or 1% better every day is a good way to encapsulate this point. If our focus is on 1% better every day, by the end of a year we have 365% improvement. But the point of this isn't that we just grow a little bit every day. The idea is that if our focus is on a minimum of 1% better every single day, then there can be days where we improve by 10%, where we improve by 50%. And the thing is, we are more consistently able to hit these big improvements because our focus is on constant small improvements. And so if at a bare minimum we improve by 1%, that means we're constantly identifying areas of improvement. So it's not going to be a big shock if all of a sudden we identify a area of 50% improvement, 150% improvement, 200% improvement. And so we can make these big jumps because our focus is on identifying these small steps. And so we are now able to open ourselves up to a big step that may come up later on. Whereas if our focus is on just get the goal all at once, we're not focused on consistently progressing towards it. We're focusing on and trying to figure out how we can get it all at once, right? And that's where the flaw comes from. How can we just all of a sudden, as quickly and easily as possible, get to the end goal? That is how we get stuck, right? The idea that we need to just get the result and find a way to just turn around one day and end up as this person, right? This idea is flawed because we can't just automatically transform our lives just like that overnight. We transform our lives overnight by becoming 1% better every day for an extended period of time, and eventually we've become so much better that the difference between who we were before and who we are now is so drastic that it looks like we've had a complete transformation. But the reality of it is, it was actually just small, tiny steps, tiny integrations over a long period of time. But with the 1% better every day mentality, right, we are constantly moving towards that goal. We are constantly progressing towards that goal. But if we're focused on the goal, we're not doing the things that get us closer to it. We're trying to find a way to just make it happen. And that's not how it works. The way we make a goal happen, the way we achieve a goal, achieve a result, is by continuously improving, continuously progressing, and continuously doing the small steps, the small actions every single day until we become so good at what we do that we end up creating that result that we are, envisioning, that we are dreaming of, that we are desiring to go after. The other thing with that is that when you are constantly improving, you're building momentum in that direction. So you're creating and generating movement towards that goal. And then as you get into that, you can amplify, multiply, and increase the intensity of that movement, that momentum, and therefore that is how we build up this ability to go and rapidly achieve our goals. But again, if we want to rapidly achieve our goals, we have to stop focusing on our goals and start focusing on progress. Having a growth mindset, not a goal mindset. So what do I mean when I say a goal mindset, right? A goal mindset is we are in our minds focused on the goal, focused on the person we want to become, focused on the lifestyle that they would live. Everything about this person we are obsessed with, right? Our mind is focused on the goal, the lifestyle of being wealthy, the lifestyle of having everything you want, right? When your mind is fixated on the goal, the end point, you're basically just dreaming, right? You're just dreaming, you're envisioning and imagining a reality that you're not actively creating. However, when we know and have identified a goal, but our mind is focused on growth, right? Growth mindset is constant improvement, right? Growth mindset is identifying areas of improvement and working to increase those skills. By having a growth mindset, but still identifying a goal, we are in the state where we are constantly progressing towards that goal, constantly identifying areas of improvement and constantly working to improve those specific areas. With that, we actually achieve the goal much easier. And we also become the person who can sustain the goal once we have achieved it in the first place. So you want to have a growth mindset, right? A growth mindset says that we can do anything and achieve anything so long as we're willing to put in the work to increase our skills to align with that specific goal and that specific outcome. Whereas a goal mindset, being so focused on the goal that it's all you think about, actually distracts us from the physical work that we have to do right now to go and achieve that and live that lifestyle and make that more than just a dream. How growth itself leads to more satisfaction than the result. So what do I mean by this, right? A lot of people talk about with purpose, with achieving goals, how once they get the result, it almost feels as though they're over it already, right? It doesn't always last very long, right? The satisfaction from getting the outcome, getting all the money, buying the new car, getting the gold medal, that satisfaction only lasts so long. And what is left is the person that you've grown to, right? The person you've become as a result of the process you've just went through. So let's say one of my goals is 10K a month. So if to achieve 10K a month, I work on a business I don't care about, don't like, and become a person that I'm not too fond of, right? I don't grow much. I choose the easiest avenue, right? I sacrifice some things that I think are important and that develop me in a positive way for making more money to achieve that goal. Thinking that the 10K a month will be satisfying enough or freeing enough to allow me to go back to what I really care about. This idea, it's completely false because the result itself, the 10K a month, the satisfaction from it will only last so long. And what I'll be left with is the person that I've created, the person I've developed myself into. So if the journey isn't developing me in such a way that I think is valuable, then it's not actually going to give me the satisfaction I needed. Whereas growth itself, the process of growth itself, is the satisfaction. So if I was to achieve 10K a month in my YouTube business, minus the 10K a month, so once the satisfaction of that fades, what I'm left with is a daily routine that I've fallen in love with, right? I love to record videos. I love to create content. I've developed myself into a person who's very intelligent, very good communicator. All of these things are skills that I've gained as a result of the process. So the growth that I've undergone as a result of getting to the end goal is the most satisfying and the longest lasting thing that you gather and that you take from this process. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that growth itself is what leads to satisfaction. Achieving the goal is only satisfying because it means you've grown into becoming the person who is able to achieve that. But the development itself is the actual end goal. The development itself is what causes that satisfaction that you're looking for, not the result. If you get the result, but then stop being the person, you'll no longer be able to sustain that state of effort, that result, and therefore you will lose the satisfaction. You won't be looking back thinking, oh, I'm so satisfied that I did that in the past, right? You would, however, be looking back and thinking, I'm so satisfied with the person I've become as a result of that work and that effort. And so if we think about it that way, it's what we are taking with us for the rest of our life that is the most important thing to focus on. And the satisfaction that we take with beyond just finishing and completing this specific goal is the growth that we've undergone, the person we've become and developed ourselves into as a result of working on this specific thing. So that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you learned anything valuable, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you guys are learning. I always love to see and read little summaries of the videos. But if you want to see more content like this, press the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm also making short form content now, so if you want to check out my TikTok and Instagram, both of those are linked down below. But again, that is all I have for this video, and I'm out of here. Peace.